factors you need to consider when considering a divorce. Here's local marital and family law attorney Peter Gladstone. And joining me now is marital and family law attorney Peter Gladstone. Peter, it is great to have you on the show. Welcome to it.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I want to start off with this stat that we found according to the U.S. Census Bureau data. The number of Americans getting divorced rose for the third year in a row to about 2.4 million in 2012 after plunging in the 18th month recession, which ended June 2009. All right, so the divorce rate is rising. A lot of people seem to think that's due to improvements in the economy. Do you feel that way?
I would look at it a little bit differently. Certainly the improvement of the economy is a force behind the increase in the divorce rate, but I think it was more the recession itself that sort of stagnated the divorce rate, and think of it as sort of the clog being cleared from the drain.
But so explain to me why, you and I were talking about this earlier, why when there was the recession people weren't getting divorced as much, and the idea of them sitting sort of across from the table from each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
Couple things. One, I think when the recession hit, everybody was sort of paralyzed in all regards, not just in divorce, but whether to stay in the stock market, whether to send my child to an out-of-state college. So nobody was making any real meaningful life decisions during that period of time. My long-standing theory is that when times get tough for couples, they spend more time together sort of looking at each other across the kitchen table as opposed to perhaps traveling or entertaining and so forth, and they might come to realize that they
hate each other.
They don't exactly enjoy each other's company as much as they thought they did.
Right.
When they can go out and do things and not worry about money.
It's 8:30 on a Friday night and you're just sitting across the table from each other going, why did I marry this person?
Exactly. You want to play another game of cards?
No, I hate cards and I hate you. And if only I had more money, I could leave. No, that's probably not the case. So what about in your practice over the past few years? What about the trends that you've seen?
We certainly saw a reduction during that period of time, maybe for 9 months, 12 months, not perhaps the 18 months that you referenced, but realized too that during that period of time we saw an increase in post-judgment modification cases, because when people suffered financial woes and have alimony or child support obligations, they come back to court to reduce those obligations during those tough times. So from a business standpoint, it didn't really impact our practice.
Okay.
There might have been 6 to 9 months where we didn't see quite as many new cases, initial divorce filings, but if you have enough in the pipeline, you're doing okay.
So if they say to you, well, maybe it's not irretrievably broken, maybe there's hope, I'm just really mad at them for X, you kind of say, well then take your foot off the gas pedal, maybe no need to get divorced right away.
Yeah, look, most people who are relatively psychologically healthy don't go into divorce in a flippant way.
Right.
They've given it a lot of thought before they actually work up the nerve to come in and sit with a lawyer and go through the process, or at least learn about and get educated about what to expect in the context of a divorce should they decide to go forward.
So I'm curious, so if money is not necessarily the main reason or a main reason, what are some reasons people come in?
Well, don't get me wrong, I think money is certainly a typical battleground, but in my view, people get people get married way too young. They hardly know themselves, let alone know what they want in a marriage or in a mate, in a partner for life. And people either grow together or they grow apart. And as individuals, we hope that we continue to grow and evolve. And sometimes the pace at which two spouses grow and evolve just doesn't mirror one another.
I don't mean to make light of this at all. I understand how tough divorce can be, especially when kids are involved. I get all that. But do people ever emerge from divorce feeling much happier?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I go home every night having been through the battles of the day, saying to myself, look, I'm helping good people get through tough times and to a better place.
Do you ever represent people for their divorce and then represent them when they decide to get back together with each other?
I actually tell a funny story. I had a client years ago who I represented him in his 4th divorce. So
Okay.
This is a guy who obviously relationships weren't his forte.
All right, but he kept trying.
And about 6 months after that very difficult case, he called me and said, "Peter, congratulate me." I'm like, "Jim, what am I congratulating you for?" He said, "I'm remarried." I said, "Jim, congratulations. Who's the lucky girl?" He said, "My first wife."
Oh, man.
So it's never too late to reconcile, and you never know what life will bring.
Well, you know the follow-up question to that. Is he still married?
I have no idea. Jim was lived on the edge, so I wouldn't be surprised if not only is he no longer married, but he may no longer be with us.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Or he might be on to wife number 8
He
or
may
9.
be on to wife number 8, but then I would take that personally because he didn't.
Because he hasn't
see
called
me.
you.
No.
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool. As we get set to wrap up, when people get set to come to you, what are some things that they need to sort of have prepared, you know, like to be empowered so they can do this?
Well, you mentioned earlier the children's issues, and in our practice we take that very seriously, and we're very sensitive, first and foremost, to children's issues. So having an idea of what it will be like for the children to adjust to having 2 households, to the separation of their parents, to me that's the #1 thing to give a lot of thought to. You'd be surprised how many people I sit across the table from in an initial consultation, and I ask them, so, you know, have you thought about what the situation will be? You know, how much time will you be spending with your kids? How much time will your spouse be spending with your kids? And they haven't given it a lot of thought.
Right.
Either they're eager to just, you know, get out, or they're scared, you know, petrified of the financial issues that we've been discussing, and haven't given much thought to the kids. There are plenty of parents, of course, that stay in unhappy marriages because they are afraid of how it will impact the children. My personal belief is that's not a good reason to stay in an unhappy marriage. Kids, you know, sense unhappiness, they sense conflict between parents, whether those parents are in an intact marriage or separated. And if 2 parents can be happier separate than they can be together, that's probably best for the children.
And as we say goodbye, do you have any stories, like what's the most outrageous thing that you've ever heard someone come in and say to you?
I have to tell you, I get that question a lot, and either I am completely numb to it,
right,
after doing this for 25 years, but there's no one particular story I can think of. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Maybe if you have me back, I'll give that.
Well, we're not going to have you back until you have a story. So
right,
call me when you get a story, and then we'll spend the whole interview just talking
and
about
in all
that.
seriousness, I mean, we're very confidential, and
Sure,
keep
sure.
our
Well, I wasn't going to ask you to name names.
course. Well, okay.
You know, you could
In
use
that
aliases.
case.
Yeah, like Jim. And finally, how can people...
Jim was a real life.
Jim was a real life person. How can people get a hold of you?
Our primary office is in Boca Raton, 561-447-2274, and our website is www.gwpa.com.
Peter, it was great to have you on the show. Thank you so much, and
Good to
we'll
be here.
have you back, yeah?
Very good.
All
Thank
right.
you.